Republican member of the committee, Congressman Will Hurd of Texas. Thanks for coming in.
Always a pleasure.
This evening, you just heard Congressman Schiff right there say this is going to cause a loss of confidence in the Intelligence Committee. Your response?
I don't believe so. I think we have to hold the intelligence community, the federal law enforcement, to high standards. I spent almost a decade as an undercover officer in the CIA, being the guy in the back alleys collecting intelligence. And we know that we are supposed to be held to a higher standard. And when political leaders of an organization, we should be making sure they're crossing every T and dotting every I.
It's not just Democrats who've criticized this memo. James Comey, former FBI director, came out with this tweet. I want to put it up right there. He says, "That's it. Dishonest and misleading memo wrecked the House Intel Committee, destroyed trust with intelligence community, damaged relationship with FISA court, and inexcusably exposed classified intelligence of an American citizen." For what? DOJ and FBI must keep doing their jobs. What's your response to James Comey?
Well, I would say that DOJ and FBI should continue doing the job. I don't believe this is an attack on Bob Mueller. I don't believe this is an attack on the men and women in the FBI. I've served shoulder to shoulder with them, and they are hardworking folks that keep us safe. What this is about is a couple of things. Should unverified information be able to be used to spy on an American? Should circular reporting be used to spy on an American?
You just say it wasn't circular reporting if you had read the underlying intelligence.
So a press release or some newspaper article should be able to be used in order to spy on an American. That newspaper article was all based off the information that they already had access to. And what's interesting is nobody is questioning whether some of the information was unverified, right? Nobody's questioning that. Nobody's questioning that there was rumors that were involved in this. And for me, this is about making sure that we're protecting the civil liberties of Americans.
But as the congressman who's read all the underlying materials just said that is only one part of a very large file that was presented to the judge.
Well, when you introduced me today, you didn't say I was from San Antonio or I spent all my life in Texas. That doesn't change the fact that I'm a Republican member of Congress, right? You know, the information that we're talking about is unverified. Nobody questions that. And the gentleman from California.
Which information is unverified?
Most of the information in the Steele dossier. What information there is verified?
Because you didn't read the underlying documents.
We don't have to read the underlying documents because we've had, and the gentleman from California said that we haven't interviewed the FBI or DOJ on this. You know, I've spent countless hours in hearings with DOJ and FBI asking questions about this. So I've had the opportunity to ask the people that created the underlying document about this, and that's what came to some of the conclusions and why I voted to release the memo.
You voted against releasing the Democratic memo. Why?
There was information in there that I did believe led to erosion of national security. There was some references to ongoing intelligence operations. I believe they're working through that and we're going to vote on it.
Why not wait until that was scrubbed the same way the Republican memo was scrubbed, so they could both be put out at the same time?
Well, the information wasn't ready to go, and so we decided to release ours. People can criticize that decision, but I think providing oversight and shining a light on these issues is important because ultimately I do believe we're letting the Russians win. The Russians got involved in our elections to erode trust in our democratic institutions. And when the press is criticizing Congress for shining light on issues, when Republicans and Democrats can't agree on stuff just because it was originated by someone in the other party, when there's a perceived friction between the executive branch, the legislative branch, and federal law enforcement, when people think that there shouldn't be oversight, civilian oversight of law enforcement.
On oversight, if you had real concerns, why not call the FBI director in a closed session, as is normally done, ask him those questions?
We did. We did. There have been dozens of hours of conversations around this, and the reason we found this was because of the broader Russia investigation. But to me, this does not. I want to stress, Bob Mueller should be allowed to turn over every rock, pursue every lead, so that we can have trust in knowing what actually the Russians did or did not do.
So you don't agree with President Trump when he says this vindicates him in the entire Russia investigation?
I don't. I don't agree with some of my colleagues that say, you know, it was always using the words explosive. I'm not shocked that elected officials are using hyperbole and exaggerations. But this is about, for me, what kind of information should be used in a Title III court in order to spy on American citizens. Our civil liberties are important. You know, most people, I was just back in my hometown of San Antonio, I didn't get asked a lot of questions about this, right? Most people are worried about how do they pay their rent bill, how do they make sure they have enough money for their kids to go to college. But the fact that we have to protect our civil liberties, this is one of the things that has made our country great. And so we should be focused on this, and Congress should do its oversight role, even in a crazy partisan environment.
I wonder what your complaint is here, though. Carter Page, the man at the center of this right now. And we just heard from Congressman Schiff that, in fact, the FBI investigation began with George Papadopoulos and the intelligence he gave to the Australian intelligence official. But let's talk about Carter Page here for a second. He'd been on the radar of the FBI as possibly working the Russians back to 2013. In order to get a FISA warrant, you have to show probable cause that this person is a foreign agent. That has to be approved by a judge. This was approved and then renewed 3 separate times by judges appointed by Republican presidents.
Right. Which I think is a problem, that information that was unverified was used in that application.
But you believe they would have done that based on flimsy information?
That's the question at the heart of all this. But
you haven't read the underlying documents.
No, but we've talked to the people that have created this. James Comey himself said that the dossier was salacious, I believe was one of the words, and unverified.
He was only talking about that one part dealing with President Trump in Russia at the time. That was only referring to one small part, not the dossier as a whole.
So what parts of the dossier have been verified?
The underlying documents would show that. That's why I'm asking why you haven't read them.
And we've asked the folks at the FBI, we've asked the folks at DOJ, and they said there's none of that stuff. They've not been able to prove through other reporting that information was correct. That's unverified information. And at the time that information was included into this first FISA application, they knew that it wasn't verified.
I want to show a quote from your Republican colleague in the House, Paul Gosar of Arizona. He said, "The full-throated adoption of this illegal misconduct and abuse of FISA by James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Sally Yates, and Rod Rosenstein is not just criminal but constitutes treason. I will be leading a letter to the Attorney General seeking criminal prosecution against these traitors to our nation." Will you sign that letter?
No.
Why not?
Because I think, is this a problem? Yes. Does it require further review? Yes. I'm waiting to see the DOJ Inspector General has a report coming out about review of some of the activities. We'll look at that. I think that goes a little far.
Congressman Hurd, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.